Ever wondered why Egypt, a country rich in history and culture, could be a place you might not want to visit? As intriguing as the land of pharaohs may seem, there are aspects that aren't as shiny as the golden sarcophagus of King Tut. The allure of the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the majestic Nile often overshadows the less glamorous realities of this ancient land. Egypt, in many ways, is a paradox. It's a place where past and present collide, where modernity grapples with tradition. And while this may spell charm for some, it also unveils a host of challenges. From economic struggles to safety concerns, from health hazards to cultural shocks, there's a lot that isn't shared in glossy travel brochures or captivating Instagram feeds. As we delve deeper into these issues, we aim to present a balanced view, not to discourage but to inform and prepare. You may think Egypt is all about pyramids in the Nile, but there's a darker side to this ancient land. Egypt's economy is something that directly impacts tourists, and not in a good way. The country is grappling with a soaring inflation rate, which is causing the cost of travel and goods to skyrocket. And it's not just the big-ticket items like hotel stays and guided tours that are affected. The cost of everyday essentials like food, water, and transportation are also on the rise. This is an economy where a cup of coffee can cost you a small fortune, and a simple meal might have you rethinking your travel budget. But the inflation rate is only part of the story. Egypt is also wrestling with a high poverty rate. The World Bank estimates that nearly 1/3 of Egyptians are living below the poverty line. That's a staggering number, and it's one that has a direct impact on the experiences of tourists. With so many people struggling to make ends meet, aggressive begging has become a common sight in the city streets. It's not uncommon for tourists to be approached by people asking for money, and in some cases, these encounters can be quite distressing. And then there's the issue of unemployment. Nearly 12% of the Egyptian population is without a job. Many of those who are unemployed have turned to less than savory ways of earning money. Scams targeting tourists are rampant. From overpriced taxi rides to phony tour guides, these scams are designed to part you from your money as quickly and efficiently as possible. The struggling economy also means that public services like sanitation and infrastructure are often underfunded and poorly maintained. This can make navigating the city a challenge, and in some cases, it can even pose a safety risk. So while Egypt might seem like an attractive destination on the surface, the reality is much more complicated. The struggling economy creates a host of challenges for tourists, and it makes for a travel experience that is far from ideal. Your tourist dollars might not go as far as you think in Egypt, and you might find yourself targeted as a cash source. You may feel the thrill of adventure in Egypt, but unfortunately, it comes with real risks. Now, we're not talking about the occasional minor mishaps that could happen anywhere. No, we're talking about significant safety concerns that should make even the most fearless adventurer pause and reconsider. Egypt has been in the international spotlight for quite some time now, and not for the best reasons. Over the years, the country has seen a surge in terrorism activities, political instability, and crime rates. These aren't just sporadic incidents, but deeply rooted problems that cast a long, dark shadow over this historically rich nation. Let's talk about terrorism, for instance. It's a harsh reality that Egypt has become a hotbed for extremist activities, with attacks happening in both urban areas and tourist hotspots. Remember the horrific bombing of a tourist bus near the Giza pyramids in 2019? Or the attack on a Coptic Christian church on Palm Sunday in 2017? These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a chilling pattern that shows no sign of abating. Then there's the political instability. Since the Arab Spring in 2011, Egypt has been on a roller coaster ride of political turmoil. Frequent protests, civil unrest, and violent clashes have become the norm, rather than the exception. This volatility doesn't bode well for visitors looking for a peaceful, worry-free vacation, and let's not forget about the crime. While most tourists may not be directly targeted, the elevated crime rates are a reflection of the broader societal issues that Egypt is grappling with. From petty theft to more serious crimes, the security situation is far from ideal. These concerns aren't just hearsay, they're backed up by travel advisories and news reports. Governments around the world are cautioning their citizens about the risks of traveling to Egypt. They're not doing this to be killjoys, they're doing it because the safety of their people is a priority. So the question is visiting the pyramids worth risking your safety? Health is wealth, they say, but in Egypt, your health might be at risk. Let's delve into the reasons why. First and foremost, the risk of food and waterborne diseases is significantly high. The World Health Organization reports that diseases such as hepatitis A, typhoid and traveler's diarrhea are common. The cause? Contaminated food and water. So the next time you crave for a local street food delicacy, remember, it might come with an unwanted side dish. Moving on, let's talk about healthcare. Egypt's healthcare infrastructure leaves a lot to be desired. According to the World Bank, Egypt spends less than 6% of its gross domestic product on health. This figure is alarmingly low compared to other middle-income countries. Low funding means inadequate facilities, shortage of trained medical personnel, and limited access to essential medicines. A medical emergency in Egypt could turn into a nightmare, with you scrambling to find proper care. And then there's the pollution. Oh boy, the pollution. Cairo, the capital city, is one of the most polluted cities in the world. The air quality is often so poor that it's equivalent to smoking 20 cigarettes a day. This not only leads to respiratory problems but also increases the risk of cardiovascular diseases. It's hard to appreciate the beauty of the pyramids when you're gasping for fresh air, isn't it? But it's not just the air. The River Nile, Egypt's lifeline, is heavily polluted with industrial waste and untreated sewage. This affects not only the aquatic life but also the millions of people who rely on the river for their daily needs. So let's recap. Contaminated food and water, poor healthcare, and high levels of pollution. These are just some of the health hazards you might face in Egypt. And that's not counting the risk of heat stroke from the scorching desert sun or the potential for insect-borne diseases. So are you ready to gamble your health for a glimpse of the Sphinx? Prepare for a cultural shock in Egypt, and not the pleasant kind. In the land of pyramids, an unfortunate reality lurks beneath the surface. One that might make you reconsider your travel plans. Firstly, let's discuss gender inequality. Egypt, unfortunately, is not the best place for women. The World Economic Forum ranked Egypt 135 out of 153 countries in their 2020 Global Gender Gap Report. A clear indication of the prevalent gender discrimination. Women face restrictions in their daily life, with limited opportunities for employment and education. Next, harassment is another widespread concern. A staggering 99% of women in Egypt have reported experiencing some form of harassment as per a United Nations study. Tourists are not exempt from this either. It's not uncommon for visitors to be subjected to uncomfortable and unwanted attention, which can indeed mar the entire travel experience. Then there's the lack of public sanitation. While the government has made efforts to improve sanitation, it's still far from the standards tourists might be accustomed to. Overflowing trash bins, litter scattered on the streets, and poor waste management are all too common sights. Additionally, animal cruelty is a disturbing reality. From overworked carriage horses to malnourished stray animals, the sight can be heart-wrenching for animal lovers. Despite the presence of animal rights organizations, enforcement is weak, and these animals continue to suffer. These problems aren't just statistics or isolated incidents, they're backed by personal anecdotes from tourists and reports from human rights organizations. The tales shared by travelers paint a grim picture, one that's far from the idyllic images of Egypt we often see. This isn't to discourage you from ever visiting Egypt, but to shed light on the less glamorous aspects of the country. It's always important to be aware of these realities when considering any travel destination. And so, we come to the end of our deep dive into Egypt's cultural shock. Behind the majestic pyramids and golden sands, remember that this is the reality behind Egypt's postcard-perfect scenes. So, there you have it, the side of Egypt that travel brochures don't show you. We've delved into the murky depths of its struggling economy, where inflation is high and unemployment rates are soaring. We've explored the safety concerns that plague the streets, where petty crime is rampant and personal security is often compromised. We've unveiled the health hazards that lurk, from poor sanitation to inadequate healthcare facilities. And we've touched upon the cultural shock that awaits unsuspecting visitors, from stark societal disparities to deep-rooted customs that may feel alien to outsiders. This is a side of Egypt that you won't find in glossy travel magazines or picture-perfect postcards. So the next time you're planning your travel itinerary, think long and hard. When you think about visiting Egypt, remember these facts and consider if it's really worth it.